This is a video by Richmond. Today we're working on a Dodge Dakota two-wheel drive pickup truck. This one happens to be a 2003 model. And what we're doing today is we're replacing a lower ball joint. So the first thing we need to do is get the vehicle up in the air, support it on jack stands, and take the tire wheel assemblies off. Now, the next thing we want to do is remove the caliper. There are two 13mm headed bolts that secure this piece to the upper A-arm. We want to remove that, and we have two 14mm bolts that secure the caliper to the caliper mount. Now, what we want to do is we want to pry the caliper back to push the pistons in, or you can take a C-clamp and do that. And that will give us enough room to slide our caliper off. And then we can take a wire and position that out of the way like that. Next, we need to remove the 21mm nut that secures the tie rod end to the steering knuckle. And what we'll do is we will put it back on just finger tight, just like that. Now, next thing we want to do is strike the knuckle right there to loosen. Okay, here we go. Now we can take that out of there. Next thing we need to remove is this stabilizer bar end link right here. You can see this one right here is busted off. On this end right here is a 15mm nut, and on the other end right up here is a 16mm nut. So we need to remove that now. Okay. All right. There we go. Next, we need to just loosen the top ball joint from the spindle. And then we want to get a jack underneath the bottom A-arm and lift it up till we get some play up here on the top A-arm. So it's off the bumper right there. Alright, now we can take that top ball joint nut out. Alright, now we want to screw the nut almost all the way off. And we want to strike the knuckle. Alright, I just lifted up on the knuckle and whacked it a good one. And now we can remove the spindle. Alright, we have our 1/8 drill drilled down about 3/4 of an inch below the top of the head of the rivet. Next, we have a 1/4 inch hole drilled to the same depth. Next, we drilled a 11/32 drill down to that depth. Alright, now we're going to take our air chisel and take the head of that rivet off. There it is. Now we have our 11 32nd drill a 1/2 inch below the surface right here. Now we'll take our grade 8 1 inch long 5/16 bolt, put that in there. Okay, that pushed it down. Now I'm going to use a 1 1/2 inch bolt, and I didn't need it. Popped it right out. And there is the rivet. Here's a close-up view of one of the rivets I took out. Now if we put the scale down to the bottom of the hole, we can see that the depth is about 1/2 inch below the head of where the rivet would be. And for extracting it, it worked out pretty well. Okay, we popped out our last rivet, and we should be able just to wiggle that ball joint out of there. There it is. So now we're gonna put our new one in. Okay, now we can install our new ball joint. Just should slide right in there. And usually the kit will give you your new nuts and bolts. And in this case, we have nylock nuts, so we don't need any Loctite on our threads. Now if you don't have nylock nuts, put some Loctite on those bolts. So now all we have to do is just torque them down. Now before we put the spindle back on, this would be a good time to replace this broken stabilizer end link. It's held on by a 16mm nut on the top here. Yeah, let's get this washer off here. There we go. Okay, here's a new one. Slip it right in there. Here's the nut for the bottom one. Put that on. Rubber bushing on. The washer. There we go. Now all we have to do is tighten them up. Alright, now we can put the spindle back in place. That's the bottom nut. I got a pry bar here on the top, so I'm leveraging the top A-arm down so I can get the nut on. There we go. Now all we have to do is tighten them up and make sure we put new cotter pins in, and we're right in there. So now all we have to do is put our tie rod back in place, put our caliper, our rotor on, put our tire on, and that's it. We will have replaced a ball joint on a Dodge Dakota.